Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks, and today we are upgrading one of the new Precons from Bloomburrow, and we brought in a special guest to help with this upgrade. It's Olivia Gobert-Hicks.
Yay! Hi! I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Rachel.
I'm so excited that you get to do this upgrade with us. It's such a fun deck. Today we're upgrading the animated army deck. It's red, it's green, it's got a raccoon.
And aura, or not auras, it's got
and
artifacts and enchantments.
I know, just
so
for
excited.
you.
I know, just for me.
Affinity for this deck.
Yes. Except the colors are wrong, but that's okay.
Affinity for animated army. This is if you and Brian were mushed together, make aggro enchantress.
I mean, I'll take it, right?
What if enchantments were hasty?
And they fought you. I'm into it. That's why you brought me, right?
Today, we are going to talk about what comes in this pre-constructed deck, what comes in the box when you buy it off the shelf. We're also going to give you 10 cards to add and 10 cards to take out using a budget of $50. Make sure your deck is in perfect fighting shape for your next game night. And we're just going to talk raccoons and hang out. Thanks for joining us.
I should have brought my hat.
Did you have a raccoon hat?
Well, yeah.
Well, what are we doing here not in raccoon hat?
I messed up. I'm sorry. I didn't want to spoil,
Yeah.
the seriousness.
You would have upstaged me. The serious.
Yeah, we can't have that.
Yeah, that's true. If you want to pick up any of the cards or any of the decks from Bloomburrow, go to cardkingdom.com/command. All of the cards that you need are available in one place because they have a huge selection of singles and sealed product. Plus, they ship it to you safely, professionally, and timely. So you get all of the cards you're looking for in one well-packaged package, plus a little packing peanut and a token for your trouble. I like shopping at Card Kingdom, especially when I build a new deck, because I know I can get a lot of the same cards in one place. It means I'm not chasing down decks over the course of weeks, and I get it all at one time, and I can build and play at my next game night. Again, you can buy some cards and support the show over at cardkingdom.com/command. And you can also support us by going to ultrapro.com/command. It's our other affiliate link if you're looking to pick up some Magic accessories. They have all the licensing for Bloomburrow. You can get Bloomburrow playmats and sleeves and binders, and they're so cute. If you're into Bello, get him on a playmat. Get the little raccoon sleeves.
So
they also have a very cool new line called Mana 8, which is all white with a giant mana symbol on it. If you want to keep things clean and sharp, and you want to represent your brand, if you want to be the red player of your playgroup, the white player, the blue player, whoever you are, you can pick up the dice and the playmat and the sleeves to match your vibe over at ultrapro.com/command. And the final way to support us is directly at patreon.com/commandzone. There's some very cool perks to being a patron. You get access to extra turns and game nights a day early without ads. That rules. You get to be in our Discord talking about those games before anybody even gets access to them. No spoilers for you. Plus, you get to support a cool team of people trying to make cool stuff for you and be a part of the conversation that makes that content get made.
I've been a patron for, I think, as long as it's been up.
Yeah?
Up, yeah.
I mean, why haven't we shouted you out yet?
Because I've been on the show shouting out other people. I feel like you know what?
That's true. We've said your name a lot.
It's too many times, maybe.
We do shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode. And this one is dedicated to Olivia Gobert-Hicks. Just kidding. This episode is dedicated to Justin Traugott. Justin, you rock.
You are the best. Even if we can't pronounce your name the same way at the same time.
We
got there.
We did our best.
We did our best.
You still rock.
Yeah.
You rock.
Nailed it.
Thank you. Today, we are upgrading the animated army Precon. Mm-hmm. We're going to get to know the deck before we do any of the upgrading, which means getting to know the face commander and, of course, the backup commander. So what better way to get to know a deck than by meeting its lead singer?
Oh, yeah. So Bello Bard of the Brambles is one. Gruel for a legendary raccoon bard. That's a 3/3.
A raccoon that plays music.
He's shredding, yeah. During your turn, each non-equipment artifact and each non-aura enchantment you control with mana value 4 or greater is a 4/4 elemental creature in addition to its other types. Whew, there's so much text. And has indestructible, haste, and the text, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Pretty good.
It's a lot of words.
What I love about this card is it turns do-nothing enchantments that commander players love into beat-face enchantments. You're like, do nothing? No!
Never. Punch instead. And, they're
so
normally just taking up space, and we are notoriously great at running enchantment removal, aren't we, everybody? We're really, really good at it. So here's your practice in maybe doing it more and getting better at it, myself included.
It's such an interesting commander because you're like, I want the deck to be full of like 4 or 5 mana enchantments and artifacts.
Right.
But also, if my only creatures in the deck are 4 or 5 enchantments and artifacts, I'm going to get the crap beaten out of me because they're going to be attacking me with you're going to be attacking with 4/4s.
You have nothing to show for, right?
And everybody else is like, you just hit me with 3 indestructible 4/4s. I'm coming for you. And you're like, I can't blame you. No, you're right.
No, it's okay. Yeah, sure. That's a good call.
So predictably, I would think that this Bellow deck is full of 4 mana, 5 mana enchantments. A lot of ramp to get there. So you can cast all this big sort of overcosted stuff. And then probably some defensive pieces to keep you from getting hurt.
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to need something, like we were mentioning, when your enchantment creatures that just beat face phase back into,
right.
We're really cool.
They turn back into stone or whatever.
Exactly, right? Yeah, they turn back into stones. You're definitely going to need something to... cover yourself in those turns. And it's interesting too, because obviously most people, you want to keep your mana value low. This is actually kind of forcing you to move that up a bit in order to make it work the way it wants to. So you definitely have to be very conscious of your ramp, what kind of things you're going to be drawing into, and the sequence that you're going to play these out to get the most bang for your buck.
Absolutely. I think something with Bellow is he's a 3-mana commander that you're not going to cast until you have a couple of 4-mana enchantments on the board, because if you do, they just kill him and you haven't done anything with him.
Right.
So it feels like Bellow's probably going to come down on turn 5, maybe turn 6, and then you have a couple of enchantments to attack with, draw some cards, and get that value out of it right away.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of an interesting play pattern. That's the face commander. So the deck is hypothetically designed around Bellow, but sometimes you look at the backup commander and you're like, actually, the deck is much more powerful with that in the command zone. So we're going to meet the backup commander and see if that is the case this time.
Oh, and what a friend they are. Wild Seer Scouring Maw is 3 in Gruul for a legendary elemental wolf. That's a 6/6. Wild Seer has trample, and enchantment spells you cast from your hand have cascade.
Whoa. Okay. I'm glad it's not just enchantment spells have cascade.
No, that would be...
I'm going to cast. I cast a 4, I cascaded a 3, I cascaded a 2.
Can you imagine the fail to find just churn?
Oh my God.
Well,
are there any 0-mana enchantments?
There are 1-mana enchantments. So
yeah, I can't think of any.
Throw out a Miri's Guile and just be like, I guess we keep playing. So.
Oh my gosh. So this is a busted commander. I mean,
nutty.
It's 5 mana and it gives you a incredibly powerful engine. It's going to be difficult to be like cast the wolf and then cast an enchantment, but there's cheap enchantments can get you a little bit of value the turn you cast it. It says a little bit about what the tendency of this deck is, that you have a backup commander that's an enchantress commander.
Yes.
Makes me think that we're probably leaning toward enchantments in the deck.
For sure. And I mean, obviously, the big difference between them, I think, is
one is a predator and one is prey.
Sure. The other... Touche. One of them is really focusing on enchantments and enchantments alone. Right. Like Bellow gives you value from having artifacts. I mean, like you can have things that are out that cost 4 that maybe have other incidental, applications to your game and your board state. This one just wants you to cast enchantments.
Just dump.
Just throw them out there. And the nice thing too is that even if you do cast something smaller that will perhaps give you a benefit elsewhere, you still get another effect out of it, where if you cast a 3-mana enchantment with Bellow, for example, like you don't get the bonus of it turning into a creature later. You just have something that might help you in another way. But it's a good way to capitalize on having a bunch of things with Bellow or going really, really hard on enchantment value with Wild Seer.
What I like about Wilds here is you do kind of see some similar cards lining up together, right? So Bellow, we talked about 2-mana ramp, 4-mana enchantments, and artifacts going to be really important. Wilds here, it makes sense that you cast those 4-mana enchantments and you cascade into all that ramp in your deck.
Exactly.
Get some free ramp every time you cast it. So those two things do work really well together, even if one is more limited than the other. And Bellow is weirdly more aggressive than the Fire Wolf.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Also, to note, like Wildseer is a 6/6 with trample for 5.
That's true. It is.
He's going to be
huge.
A bit tougher to get rid of anyway. So as long as you can get one enchantment up, you are going to start accruing that value, especially if it's a 4-mana, 5-mana, something like that. You're going to get something out of it.
Yeah, I would expect Wildseer obviously to be more enchantment focused and probably a little bit more value focused, where Bellow is going to be trying to beat things as fast as possible. Yeah, it's when you catch a raccoon in a spotlight and he hisses at you, that's the deck.
There's just the scurry and scramble.
He just comes to your fire to steal your marshmallows.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so that's the face commander and the backup commander of this deck. It gives you a little bit of information of what we're going for. Up next, we're going to talk about the notable reprints that are in the box when you buy it off the shelf. So the only ones that we talk about these days are $5 and more, and this deck has a ton of them. There are 8 reprints over $5, which is amazing. Means you're going to get a lot of cards that are really worth the investment here, especially considering these decks are only retailing for about $45.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to move through these pretty fast just so you know what they are. For the first is Tendershoot Dryad, sitting at $16. Makes sense. There's that defense we're talking about. Some Saproling Jumpers.
Please help.
Block, 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 block. Greater Good is sitting at $13. Grothama All Devouring at $10. Can't really believe Grothama is that expensive these days. Bootlegger's Stash. Remember the card that was going to break Commander?
Which one?
It's at $7. This is the one that says lands you control have tap, add a treasure token.
Yeah.
Everybody, when that was printed, the Commander world went nuts.
Sure did.
Lotus Cobra is at $6.50. Kudama of the East Tree at $6. Gratuitous Violence at $5.50. And Galta Primal Hunger at $5. Pretty good. Some great value there. A lot of just played popular Commander cards.
Heck yeah. And Gratuitous Violence especially relevant in this deck as it turns itself, gets itself into a 4/4 and then just
deals double damage. Damage doublers are so funny in this deck because I don't usually love damage doublers.
They're so amazing here.
They feel like you just play them and you're like, I hope I have other stuff going on that makes this relevant. But the fact that it's a 4/4 with Indestructible in haste that says, if you don't block me, I draw
I'm punching
a card.
You harder.
And it's just impossible to block and it takes so much damage off of it.
Yeah, we're big fans.
Very, very fun in this list. And it gives you an idea for what we're doing. Big things, beat face, deal damage. Very fun.
Yeah, and beat face fast because, again, you need to have yourself a defense. And if you don't, get ready.
I'm very curious to see this deck play after upgrading because seeing a deck built from scratch, because it does feel like it is a lethal weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the total reprint value of this deck. A reminder with all of our reprint values, including the ones we've already mentioned, is that they are taken before these decks are spoiled. Nobody knows these yet.
Yep.
So once they come out, all of those reprint values will go down because that's how reprints work. It's helpful. But so all of these numbers can sort of be taken with a grain of salt. It's more to compare it to other decks that were taken at the same time. So you have an idea of what kind of value you're getting relatively rather than specifically. All that being said, the total reprint value of this deck is $147.50.
At the time of filming.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I love this number. I mean, especially for $45, that means you're getting a huge amount of value for a perfectly reasonably regularly priced Precon.
Yes, we love that.
Yeah.
We love value here at the Command Zone.
We sure do. Yeah. Where's Josh is running down the stairs.
I know, he heard the word.
This only takes into account the reprints, of course. There's 70 in the deck. There are 10 new cards, 2 main set cards, 18 basic lands that are not included in that total, which means you get even more value.
Value.
Pretty good. We've been doing a bang for your buck value to give that number a little bit more context, which is taking the total reprint value and it's dividing it by the the pre-release price at time of recording, which is $45. And it'll tell you how much reprint value you're getting for your American dollar spent. And in this case, it is $3.28, which seems great.
That does seem great.
You spend $1, you get $3 of value
And
back.
again, that's not accounting for the 10 due cards.
Right.
So based on, how people feel about those and what they do for you, that can vary. But still, that it's a good value. We like a good value.
We didn't mention that this deck actually comes with an additional foil. For Bloomburrow, there's the Face Commander, which is a full art foil, special art. Then there's the Backup Commander, which is just a regular foil. And then each one comes with like a Bloomburrow shifted Planeswalker. That in this case is Domri Anarch of Bolas as a porcupine.
Yes.
It's pretty fun. So there's one in each box that's a reprinted commander, but as an animal.
Yes, as a critter. Part of the critters page.
I believe they're non-canonical. It's like a what if.
Yeah, it's a what if.
Yeah,
they're seen as what ifs.
This is above average reprint value just overall. It is the second highest of the Bloomburrow Precons.
Sweet.
Which is pretty good.
We love that.
Good value.
Shoot, that's right. I forgot.
You don't have to throw them.
I've
that
had to
was
do this
so
before.
good.
Thank
It landed like on my head.
It was a little gentle. Oh,
Yeah,
hi, Rachel.
just a pet. I just got a little pet. So that's what's in this box financially, what you're getting for your money. But we also like to break down the decks mechanically so you understand the nuts and bolts of how the deck is designed to work when you play it. So that means that it's time to break down the stats. Very good. It was a great stats.
killed it, yeah.
Was that your first stats?
That was my first stats.
It was wonderful.
I'm here to help.
10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Let's talk about them. We like to talk about the stats, the vegetables of the deck, things that go in every single precon, every single commander deck. And this one looks pretty good. It's got 25 pieces of ramp.
And you need them. You need them all.
Huge amount of ramp, which actually kind of makes sense for a deck that's built around 4 and 5 drops.
Yeah.
So 25 may be high, but it's also kind of comfortable. There are 11 pieces of draw or card advantage. There's some cascade stuff going on, which is sort of loosely card advantage. So consider 11-ish. There are 7 pieces of targeted interaction, significantly lower than what we have been putting in decks these days, but not off for a Gruul deck.
Sure.
2 board wipes, and there are 39 lands, including 18 basic lands. Pretty good. That looks pretty normal for me. The big thing that sticks out is ramp.
Yes.
That's an enormous number that says that, like, look, we need to get some lands on the battlefield really fast.
Yeah. And for a yet to be released game, I have interacted with this deck and played it and piloted it. You need the ramp because you definitely, in order to start having any sort of big board presence with Bellow, you have to get big enchantments out.
Right.
And you have to get them out fast. Ramp is crucial. It never felt like that was all I was drawing or like it's a very healthy amount for what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and a lot of this ramp is like on 4 drops, right? There are Thran Dynamos, which is also a creature in this deck. There's like a Gilded Lotus, which is also a creature in this deck. There's big, chunky ramp that's like, even if you feel like you're flooding, you also have 4/4s that are indestructible and draw you cards.
Yeah.
So it seems completely reasonable to have this amount of ramp, especially when there's some of that top end ramp included in that number as well.
Yep.
The next section of stats that we're going to talk about is the stuff that is special to Bellow and Wild Seer.
Yeah.
It's the stuff in the deck that makes the deck unique. What is the deck trying to do? What are the cards in the deck designed to do? And the first one is there's 18 potential elementals in the deck. So by that, I mean artifacts and enchantments that are 4 mana or higher, which seems kind of low.
It does, but it doesn't. Like I said,
but they're also 4 and 5
didn't
drops.
Feel
They're
that
so
way.
expensive.
That's another 18 potential creatures, right? So it doesn't really feel like...
I could always put more creatures in the deck.
You could. Especially if they're enchantment creatures.
Yeah, that's true. They're doing double duty.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a lot. That says that the curve is pretty high if there's 18 cards that are between 4 and a million mana.
Yeah.
Especially in the enchantment and artifact category. For Wild Seer's sake, I wanted to count the number of enchantments in the deck naturally.
I see.
There's only 12, which makes me think that Bellow is a much better fit for the Face Commander because it cares about artifacts and enchantments.
Yeah.
There are 5 cards that care about treasures specifically.
But there's not a lot of treasure generation per se.
Yeah,
which,
like those cards make treasures usually, but it's sort of bizarre to have that as a sub-theme that's so small.
it's very limited in scope based on what's in the Precon, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll probably pull those out. And then there's 6 cards that make creature tokens, which looks suspicious at the beginning. And then you play the deck and you're like, oh, I'm a sitting duck.
Yes.
And
Look at these little sacrificial saplings.
Yeah,
hey, guys, you just go
exactly.
stand over there.
Just be a wall.
Everything's fine.
Form a wall. Form a wall. Okay, I'll be back
Grow
here.
fast, please.
Yeah, they will never attack. You are only attacking with your 4 and 5 mana enchantments in this deck. Your little guys are to defend your life total and make you an inconvenient target.
Yes.
So I think these are actually, maybe this number could be higher to give you a little bit more defensive power when you're investing so much mana into stuff that cannot block. All right, let's talk about the best cards in the deck.
Let's talk about the best cards.
Because there's some sweet things going on in this
There really
Precon.
are. We'll start off with one that is amazing in this deck. And once we, as we earlier mentioned, Gratuitous Violence. Really good pairing here. Berserker's Onslaught, the 5 mana enchantment that gives attacking creatures you control double strike.
It's an attacking creature, Olivia.
I know, it is an attacking
It's an enchantment with double strike.
Gonna punch it twice. It's
The
so
cool
good.
thing is about this is like enchantments, it doesn't matter if they're tapped, right? So like you can attack with those freely.
Everything still counts.
And your board is still untapped as long
Yep.
as you have other creatures, which is so cool.
It's way cool.
Also, double strike's really good with Bella's ability.
Sure.
That gives them the, like, when they deal combat damage, you draw a card. So now you're drawing twice as many cards and dealing twice as many damage.
We love that.
Twice
Again,
as many damage.
twice as many damage sounds like value.
Value.
Whoa.
This is the kind of value I like. That also hurts them.
Card draw and pain.
Yeah, great.
Sweet. Awesome.
Both of those? Perfect.
We're in.
This is exactly the kind of, like, if I was building this deck from scratch, I think it would be full of just like aggressive 4 mana and 5 mana enchantments that are like going to make your enchantments way better, going to give them trample and double strike and, you know, menace and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, any kind of keyword that's going to let them really get through and get the job done.
For sure.
Yeah.
The next card I wanted to bring up because it looks weird on the list, but it's actually so sick.
I agree with you because I immediately saw this and this is like, what is this doing here? So I and I'm sure all of the podcast listeners await your information about Grothama all-devouring.
Yeah. So you look at Grothama, and usually Grothama is in like Power Matters type of decks, but it says other creatures have. Whenever this creature attacks, you may have it fight Grothama all-devouring. And when Grothama leaves the battlefield, each player draws cards equal to the amount of damage dealt to Grothama this turn by sources they controlled. So Grothama is a 10/8.
Yes.
And you have a board full of indestructible 4/4s. Which means if you go to attack
Hear me out.
your indestructible 4/4s, all of them have the ability to fight Grothama and deal damage to Grothama without dying. So on this board, if you have Bellow and 2 enchantments or artifacts that can attack and a Grothama, you attack with those 2 enchantments, they all fight Grothama. Grothama dies and you draw 8 cards before you deal any combat damage.
Sure do.
5
That's
mana,
sweet.
draw 8? That rules. That's so cool.
Yeah. On the first pass, like I said, it looks very, very questionable. And it's that indestructible on those on those enchantments and artifacts. When you attack with them, you can have them fight too, get a boatload of cards.
Yeah.
Nothing leaves your battlefield except Grothama. Like, why not?
Which is right. That's why you played Grothama in the first place, is for her to leave. I think that's a big thing about Grothama to note here, is this is not a play Grothama, pass Grothama.
Yes.
This is, you have 2 enchantments that are ready to attack. You play Grothama, you draw the cards immediately. It's a sorcery.
Yeah.
Is a creature in your graveyard. Or I guess, you could give it double strike.
It's a spicy include is what it is.
It's a spicy include. I love a spicy include.
And then our other best card is one we've mentioned before. It's Wildseer Scouring Maw, the 5 mana 6/6 trampling wolf that lets your enchantments cascade.
I think if this card's in your deck, it's just going to be busted.
It is. no spoiler.
Yeah.
It's real borked.
Yeah, it just feels really powerful.
It is really powerful.
Not to mention it just being huge. Like, it's an enormous blocker that gives you a ton of value, and you're casting expensive enchantments anyway. You might as well get a free spell out of it. Maybe 2 free enchantments. Like, what an insane blowout.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this is a deck that has Sunbird's Invocation, right? Like, you cast a Sunbird's Invocation, you cascade into a Thran Dynamo. They can both attack right away. It's absurd. So it's pretty expensive, but it does a lot of the things the deck want to do. And when you have it on the battlefield, it's going to feel busted.
Absolutely. And again, having a 6/6, it's not something that's just going to die to a state-based effect unless it gets hard countered. It's going to stick around. There's no,
Unless somebody removes it. But if they remove Wilds here and not your commander, you're like, okay, I'll keep hitting you with 4/4 indestructibles.
Well, okay, if you insist.
If you insist. This deck is sweet. There's a lot of stuff in the deck that feel just really powerful already, but we do have a couple of goals in this upgrade to make it feel more synergistic, a little bit faster, take some of the pieces out that have question marks over their head.
For sure.
There are, like many precons, a few cards that just feel a little wonky.
Yes. Big agree.
So we're definitely talking about Bello as the commander, like we have alluded. But what are some of the changes that we wanted to make happen with this upgrade?
So we felt that building from scratch, we want to focus on either artifacts or enchantments. It is a little tough to just do as a straight upgrade to a precon, especially when you have that, budget restriction on it, because you can't just wipe everything out and put a bunch of good stuff in. You're going to go over your budget. So we're just going to not necessarily focus too hard on one or the other here and instead make other more meaningful changes. The deck is a little low on interaction. 7 direct pieces is okay, but there's some spice we can add to make it feel a little bit more consistent as far as having options.
Get some blockers out of the way.
Yeah, we like that.
That's what we're trying to do.
That's a good thing. Ramp is definitely important, but it has to be cheap, fast ramp because we need to get stuff out on that battlefield fast. So we're going to give some options for that as well.
A really important curve for this deck is going to be ramp on 2, 4 mana enchantment or artifact on 3. Like, that is so important for your deck to just start hitting those curves. So consistency is going to be crazy important. 2 mana ramp, 3 mana enchantment, probably another enchantment, and then maybe Bello the turn after that.
Absolutely.
Once you can get some value accruing.
And so again, this deck is obviously very aggressive. We really want to lock in that curve. Make sure we can be ferocious at the onset instead of waiting. Okay, now I can cast a couple things. We really want to get that ramp going early and get those creatures out early. I winked for those that are just listening. It was a very big, exaggerated wink.
It was a big wink. I saw it.
It was a Lucille Bluth.
I love any deck that it's just like, oh, we're just here to fight. It's just, we're just here to make more creatures. Our enchantments are creatures.
Sideways. Let's go.
My enchantress deck is Gilwain. Which is just creatures with enchantments attached to them. They're not even enchantments.
No.
It's got like 40 creatures in it. What is going on? But this deck seems super, super spicy and has a lot of cool things, which means there's a lot of cool tech we can add. And we're going to get to those additions, 10 cards to add, after a few words from our sponsors. Stick around. All right, ready to record?
Bonjour, Rachel. ¿Cómo se va?
Guys, Josh is broken.
Oh, no, sorry. It's just I'm wearing my DUER jeans today, and it's making me remember my time in Paris. That's French for Paris.
Okay, but why do they remind you of Paris?
Well, after MagicCon Amsterdam, I spent some time in France, and these jeans, they were my favorite by far for all those long days walking around sightseeing. DUER Stretch Performance Denim is the perfect combo of comfort and quality. I felt great even after a full day of trekking through the city, and these things are super durable, so I know they're going to last me through many trips to come. Plus, DUERs just look great, whether you need an outfit for Commander Night or you're strutting through the fashion capital of the world.
I think that's Milan, but I'll have to pick some up.
Oui, oui.
French must have loved you, huh?
Oui, oui. We're telling you, DUER will be your new favorite pair of pants. Order yours today. Visit DUER's flagship stores in LA or Denver or shop online at shopduer.com/command.
Right now, our listeners get 20% off their first order when you use our exclusive URL, shopduer.com/command. This is an amazing deal. Don't wait. Get 20% off now at shopduer.com/command.
Greetings, loyal subjects! I am Kenrith, the returned king! Some less regal commanders force you to build a complex engine or sling together spells to achieve victory. It's all very tedious and exhausting. Not me, though. I'm all about those easy wins, baby. That's why I switched to Mint Mobile for a premium wireless service at just $15 a month. Making the switch couldn't be easier. No hoops to jump through or stacks effects to dodge. Just go online, purchase, and activate. Now I'm saving a ton of money while getting high-speed data and unlimited talk and text all on the realm's largest 5G network. It's service fit for a king at a price fit for a pauper player. And if you'll excuse me, I have to go reanimate the creatures my opponent spent all the resources destroying. See? Easy.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/command. That's mintmobile.com/command. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/command. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Yes! I win! Probably. Anyway.
Probably. What's going on?
I just goldfished a huge turn on ARCHIDEKT. Check it out, they've got the best playtester in the business. Playing and tapping your cards is as simple as clicking them. Everything goes right where you want it, but you can drag things by hand and group them together in different ways too. Then there's easy shortcut keys for things like making copies, sending cards between zones, and starting the next turn.
Nice, so this is a Traxo. All that proliferating's gotta take a while.
It doesn't actually. Just right click and hit proliferate all counters.
Oh wow, yeah, you probably do win.
I think so.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/command-zone.
Welcome back, everybody. We are upgrading the animated army Precon, and it is time to add some magic cards.
Yeah.
This first section is just all about aggression. We want lots of bodies on the board. We want to be able to attack fast, hit hard, and make sure that that curve feels really, really strong.
We sure do.
And this first card is honestly my favorite find for the deck.
Yeah, you killed it with this one.
I'm
No lie.
so excited.
You should be. You should be proud of this one.
So this is Skitterbeam Battalion. You don't know Skitterbeam Battalion? I didn't either until a moment ago. This is a 9-mana 4/4 construct with trample and haste, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, create 2 tokens that are copies of it. And you're like, 9 mana? Pff. Well, it has prototype for 3 red. So if you cast Skitterbeam Battalion for its 3 red prototype cost, you get 2 copies of it, which means that you have 3 5-mana 2/2 artifacts with trample naturally. And Bello loves that.
They were all 5. So now they're 4/4 elementals.
But yeah, Bello turns them into
trample
4,
and haste.
which is like they have the best keyword you want. There's 3 of them in a box.
Yep.
And
It was only 5 mana.
And like once Bello, it isn't turning them into 4/4s because they stop being 4/4s on your opponent's turn. They're still
there. They can still help.
You
They can
still
block.
have little blockers.
Yep.
So it's everything this deck wants. They're terrifying beaters. They're great little blockers. And, you know, if you want to cast it for 9 mana and get super feisty, I guess that's something you can do. I think this is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to beat that amount of power for this rate. 5 mana for 12 trample power with indestructible and haste.
We love
is
that.
Bananas.
Yes.
And it's $1.50. Best part.
I don't want to keep saying it, but value. I mean,
Value.
again, yeah.
That's
It's
value.
It's gruel value.
Gruel value.
Gruel
See, this is the kind of thing that it makes me like, well, maybe I should build Bello.
I mean, it's not.
I get excited about every Precon upgrade, though.
It's, you know what? It's good. Someone has to.
Someone has to. That's why I'm here.
Yay. Boy.
This next card is a little bit spendier, sitting at $6, but I do think it is worth it for the deck.
It's a good one. It's Molten Echoes, which is 2 red for an enchantment. As it ETBs, choose a creature type. I suggest elementals. Whenever a non-token creature of the chosen type ETBs under your control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. That token gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step.
So weird thing about Bello's ability is their creatures when they enter the battlefield.
They sure are, friend.
So I believe when you cast Molten Echoes, on its way down, you choose elementals, and it arrives, and it's like, I'm an elemental.
Wait, me?
Oh my gosh. It makes a
There
token.
should be another one of me.
It makes a token copy of itself, also naming elementals. And now any enchantments you cast after this, you get 2 copies of,
Gimme.
which is
Really
so
good,
wild. Like with
right?
damage doublers, this is insane.
We've used bananas too many times.
We've used.
so
I can't
keep
say
saying
bananas anymore. It's just getting longer every time I say
yeah.
it. But there's enchantments that add additional value to the battlefield. Like if you have, if you play a gratuitous violence after you play Molten Echoes, you make 3 gratuitous violence, which means your damage is doubled.
Yeah, let's go.
Which I don't want to do the math. You can. I just come up with the coolest stuff.
I just cast this. Do you want to try to count?
Yeah.
Would you like an abacus?
That's the kind of thing that your opponent goes, does that work how I think it does? And you go, yeah. And they're like, I got to kill your commander. And you're like,
It's how I think it works too. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited that it came down.
Yeah, Molten Echoes is super, super powerful in this deck. And it double triples any value that is attached to your do nothing enchantments anyway. Pretty cool.
Next up, yeah.
Yeah.
Our next friend is Nylea, God of the Hunt. 3 and a green for a legendary enchantment creature god that's a 6/6 and indestructible. As long as your devotion to green is less than 5, Nylea isn't a creature. Other creatures you control have trample. You can pay 3 and a green for target creature to get 2/2 until the end of turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Timestamps matter here, so that's the one thing to keep in consideration with Nylea.
Yeah, it's because Nylea says, if you don't have devotion, I'm not a creature. And Bello says, if you're a 4-mana enchantment, you are a creature. And obviously those conflict a little bit. So whoever wins is just whoever showed up to the party last.
Yep.
So if Nylea's on the battlefield and she says, I'm not a creature, and then Bello arrives and she's like, I'm a creature, and I'm a 4/4 now.
Yeah.
So it overwrites her power and toughness, makes her a 4/4, but she still has indestructible and all of her other abilities.
Yep.
If you have Bello on the battlefield and you play Nylea after, Nylea wins and she's like, I'm not a creature no matter what you say, you raccoon.
Yeah, I'm not listening to you.
So then she keeps her own power and toughness and isn't a creature until you hit that devotion minimum, which is the 5 mana, 5 green devotion.
Yeah.
But still, trample is so important in this deck.
Yeah.
Keeps all your enchantments from getting chump blocked and means you're going to punch through to get that card draw.
Yep, and also, having an additional ability that can give you that +2/+2, just eke out a little bit more damage if you need it to either take out a blocker, get the trample damage in, whatever it takes. Like having another ability still makes her a very helpful include, I think.
Absolutely, this is a ramp deck. I mean, you could dump some amount of mana into your Nylea to make sure that you're drawing the card from certain things, win fights in battle, that kind of thing. And Nylea sitting at $7.50. Pretty good.
We're so good at this.
This next one is we wanted to add some card draw.
Yes, we
some
did.
that felt like a little bit more concrete, didn't rely on cast triggers and could trigger more than once. And this first one is a spicy little piece of tech that I'm excited about. It's Smuggler's Buggy. Smuggler's Buggy. It's a 4-mana artifact. Say it again. Smuggler's Buggy. It's a 4-mana artifact of vehicle with Hideaway 4. So when this artifact enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So you look at the top 4, you pick one, it goes exiled under the Smuggler's Buggy. Whenever the buggy deals combat damage to a player, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. If you do, return Smuggler's Buggy to its owner's hand. It has crew 2. So this card's really neat.
It is, actually.
But just naturally neat. But it's a little slow to cast it, get a thing, wait until it can attack, and it doesn't have any natural evasion. But your commander gives it haste and makes it indestructible. Yep. And the whole goal of the deck is for these enchantments or these elementals to deal combat damage. So now you can play a Smuggler's Buggy, get the Hideaway trigger. It has haste and indestructible. If you deal combat damage, you cast the Hideaway creature or the Hideaway spell. I just assume it's a creature. And draw a card. And then it returns it back to your hand so you can do that whole thing again.
Repeat the process over, yeah.
That's a ton of value. Even if you're casting a 4-drop every turn, you're getting a free spell and drawing a card for it. I think
4, that's pretty good.
that's pretty good. Yeah. It just gives you something. It keeps you busy with your buggy.
Absolutely. When you put it that way. And again, we're, trying to also run things that are giving you other keywords, that are giving you the option for double strike, that are giving you trample. Those sort of things are going to make it all the more valuable to have something like this. I mean, this really sweet include. Great work.
Thanks.
Good find.
It's 50 cents.
Let's go.
It's 50 cents. Plus, you get to say, I recast my smuggler's buggy.
And how often do you get to do that?
You never get to do
that.
Oh, I love that this next card gets to be in this deck.
Yeah, Rachel was very excited about it. It's Glorious Sunrise. 3 and 2 green for an enchantment that has a lot of words on it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn.
Bingo.
Target land gains tap, add 3 green until end of turn. Draw a card if you control a creature with power 3 or greater, and you gain 3 life.
What more could you want?
There's so many options.
That's all the things.
Yeah.
It's also a 4/4.
It's a creature.
It's the creature that draws the card.
Yeah. It's a creature. It draws cards. It could gain you life.
It ramps.
It ramps.
It gives all your stuff trample. Now your stuff is 5/5 trample, indestructible haste. That is a glorious sunrise indeed.
It is.
For $1.50, what more could you want? Pick
For
one
it
up.
cost 4.
Show your raccoon a beautiful sunrise.
Yes. Sit and hold hands with your trash goblin and watch the sun come over the horizon.
I'm a creature of the night.
Don't you see my eye mask? I have it on at all times. Oh, goodness. And then next up, we've got the Case of the Locked Hothouse. See, something good did come out of MKM. Just kidding. Anyway, for 3 and a green, it's an enchantment case. You can play an additional land on each of your turns. To solve it, you control 7 or more lands. When it's solved, you can look at the top card of your library at any time, and you can play lands and cast creature and enchantment spells from the top of your library.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on. That's
There's
awesome
so
here.
many things going on here.
The ramp is great.
Yep.
We're trying to add some card draw so you can keep that, keep going and be able to hit that additional land drop. Plus, this is a creature and it lets you cast enchantments off the top is a really huge deal here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that this feels a little do nothing when it's not a creature, but the fact that Bellow is just like, yeah, get in there.
Go fight.
You fight. It's very
Locked hothouse. Go get him.
I'm going to throw the book at you.
Yeah. She got It's so much more than it looks like, especially in this deck. It slices, it dices, there's so much more value here when this is going to turn into a creature on your turn. You get an attack out of it. So you might do damage. You might draw a card. It lets you play extra lands. If you have enough of them, now you get to play stuff off the top of your library that are creatures or enchantments, or you can just keep ramping because you can play lands off the top too. That's so spicy.
Yeah, I like anything that can give you multiple things that you want it can fulfill multiple roles, especially when all your stuff is so expensive and you're not going to be double spelling as much.
Yeah.
Having one spell do a lot for you is going to go a long way.
For sure.
Speaking of card draw, it's our favorite. It's Guardian Project. 3 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. You know what's fun about this? Guardian Project draws a card when it enters the battlefield because it's a creature.
Make sure that squirrely little raccoon's out on the battlefield and you're just going to have a heck of a time.
It's pretty sweet. It's not that interesting, but it's cool that you get to cast it and draw a card right away.
Yeah. We're all about it.
This next one is your masterpiece. So,
thanks.
Next section is about interaction, trying to make sure that you can meaningfully interact with your opponents other than hitting them in the head, of course.
I mean, that is, Brian keeps telling me that is the most pure interaction in Magic is assaulting one another with creatures. Yeah. So this sweet friend is Aligned Hedron Network. It's a 4-cost artifact that reads, when Aligned Hedron Network enters the battlefield, exile all creatures with power 5 or greater until it leaves the battlefield. So, you get this spicy 4/4 creature that makes everything bigger than it go away. By the way, it has haste and indestructible as long as your commander's out there, and it'll draw you a card. So put Aligned Hedron Network in this.
This
friends.
is
It's super sweet.
This is the most intense. Oh no, I can't think of the name. The creature that comes in and exiles a creature until it leaves the battlefield.
Oh, there's so many of those.
I know. There's so many, and I can't think of any of them.
That's okay.
But you know what I mean. O-ring of all time, and it also attacks. Being able to get rid of all of the free blocks your opponents have and then swing in with multiple 4/4s to draw cards is so busted.
Yeah.
And your opponents are going to be like, wait, so we lose all of our big stuff. Mm-hmm. And you keep all of your 4/4 indestructibles that keep hitting us.
Yep.
It's a huge tempo play. It's going to feel amazing.
Yeah.
And it gets removed. You're like, but they just remove it and get all their stuff back. It was like, they have to wait until after it's indestructible to remove it. So
Yeah. Pretty sweet. So
a little dangerous if you're buffing your enchantments too much. So be careful.
So be mindful. But if they're just chilling,
Yeah.
and they're just coming in as 4/4 Angies friends, then Aligned Hedron Network's pretty sweet.
It's pretty sweet. I love that there's a deck for this. It's only 50 cents for this.
Yeah.
It's a kind of card that you see when you're first starting to play Magic and you're like, well, this must be busted.
Yeah,
And then you're
it's
like,
not,
and then it doesn't feel busted.
And then finally, situationally, there's one spot for it where
is
it is actually busted.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're back.
We got there. We finally broke Aligned Hedron Network.
It took us
years.
Many,
What,
it's
10?
2015 is what this says.
just about 10 years, but we got there. Mm-hmm. We got there.
We got there.
Rule Precon 10 years.
That's the thing. That's the best about Commander, is it brings Aligned Hedron Network together with this next one, which is Gimli's Reckless Might. Gimli's fights the Eldrazi's. It's 3 and a red for an enchantment. It says creatures you control have haste. Weirdly, that's not the important line of text here. It says formidable. When you attack, if creatures you control have a total power of 8 or greater, target attacking creature you control fights up to one target creature you don't control. So this is sort of similar to why Grothama is good in the deck. Yes. It, of course, is a 4/4 creature that can attack and fight. It's indestructible, so it gives you a free fight. If for anything with 4 toughness or less, it doesn't matter if they have indestructible or if 5 power, you still win the fight. Plus, it gives you additional utility on top of that. It's very easy to hit formidable in this deck. You only need 2 artifacts or enchantments on the battlefield,
and you're ready to go.
You can get fighting. Gimli loves it.
Yeah, Gimli's really sweet. It's actually it's just really sweet.
Yeah,
the formidable is actually a very cool thing. And then again, you have some other spicy pieces out. It comes down. It might draw you a card. If Guardian Project's there, it's still going to hit someone in the face for 4.
Yeah.
There's just, a lot of utility there. Nice.
I like that it's repeatable interaction as well.
Yeah.
In a deck that's low on interaction, it's nice to have a card that can interact on multiple turns.
It's really cool when enchantments do stuff more than once.
Yeah. I don't know, but they don't attack usually.
This time. But this time.
That's only $1.50 for Gimli's Reckless Might.
Cool. Last up is a suggestion I had just because I love it. Nautiloid ship for a 4 for a 4 cost. Yeah, well, of course. A 4 cost vehicle that is a 5/5 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. When Nautiloid ship deals combat damage to a player, you can put a creature card exiled with Nautiloid ship onto the battlefield under your control.
Sweet.
We love it. Oh, crew 3.
It's so good. You're not crewing it in this deck.
No, you're not crewing it.
Bello doesn't crew anything. He just says fly,
which is also really nice.
That's the big thing that I love about this is it's a flying vehicle, so it'll keep its keywords when it's an elemental. It won't keep its power and toughness. It'll be bumped down to a 4/4 with Bellow, but you don't have to crew it. So it's a 4/4 flying indestructible haste that draws you a card, exiles a graveyard, and could potentially cast stuff for free.
Yeah.
That seems really busted.
And again, repeatable. If this thing sticks around, you get to
cast multiple
casting cards out of that graveyard. So if you have somebody, especially if they're running, a reanimator strategy, anything like that, get their graveyard, take their things, win the game.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Having more incidental graveyard removal is, especially on a synergy piece like this that feels fun and works in other ways, is the perfect thing for a casual deck.
Absolutely.
You're like, I get to interact with the graveyard, but I also get to beat face with a Nautiloid ship.
Yeah.
Plus,
and you get to play your friend's cards maybe,
you get
which
to
is
have
even
a
better.
Raccoon piloting a Nautiloid ship is he should not be doing that.
But he is.
He's just a little guy.
With the Nautiloid chip.
That brings our total. Oh, Nautiloid chip is up to $5.
Wow.
I know it's crept up in the world. That brings our total upgrade to $38.50. So we saved you a little bit of money. We do have an honorable mention that should be said. It's an honorable mention in many decks, but it's very good in this one. It's Roaming Throne.
Yes.
Naming elementals means that all of the triggered abilities that your enchantments have
Go for it again.
happen twice, including the deal combat damage one. So you're going to draw 2 cards. All of your Glorious Sunrise triggers 2 times. Everything is going to be quite powerful with a Roaming Throne on the board.
Just costs a lot of money, so
It does.
honorable mention.
It's like $35 if you want. If you've got one, throw it in the deck. It'll be very good as well. Plus, it's a 4/4 indestructible haste.
A
Winnergy.
yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
Yeah, all right.
We've added 10 cards, which means we have to do the hardest thing in Commander, which is 10 cards cut from this deck. That's very difficult to do for me and others. This one does have a couple of head scratchers, so it makes it a little bit easier. But we're going to start with that ramp package because there are 25 pieces of ramp, and we can bring it down a little bit, especially because we added at least one in the upgrade.
For sure. And these are some of the more expensive ramps. Well, I should say one of them is. Another one is actually just kind of a little off tempo for what you're going to want to do with this deck. So first up, we have Burnished Heart, which costs 3. It's an artifact elk. That's a 2/2, but you must pay 3 and sacrifice it to search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Pretty high investment to get that ramp.
Yeah.
Definitely not something you're going to be able to do early unless you've got 2 turns or if somehow ended up with 6 mana to burn.
It's a very awkward mana value in this deck
it really
you're
is.
trying to get to 4. So you have this 3-drop that doesn't ramp you to 4. It ramps you beyond that. I wish if it was a 4-mana elk that was 3 to sack it, then I totally
easy
understand.
game. It would not be on the flip.
But it is a little weird in this spot.
Yeah.
The next one's Cultivate. Cultivate's a good ramp spell. I like it better in decks that have 3 colors, so that fixing really comes in, or have a 5-mana commander where you're ramping on 3 to get to 5. In this deck, we want to ramp on 2 to get to 4. So 3 mana is just a little bit awkward in our curve.
Exactly.
So I'm cutting it. We have lots.
Cultivate's the same cost as your commander here, so that can set you back a turn from like the most optimal pacing. So just like you said, best in a 3-color deck really can help you with the fixing here. It
just a hair slow.
Fine if you don't want to take it out, you don't have to, but it's a smidge slow. Yeah.
This next one is in every precon, and
sure.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't have white, so it's not Zatalpa. It's Atali Primal Storm. 4 colorless and 2 red for a legendary Elder Dinosaur. That's a 6/6. When it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You can cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana costs. Powerful? Yes. Cool? Yes. Synergistic?
You can just use the slot better.
Yeah.
There's just like, you can put Atali in a lot of decks. It doesn't make any sense here. Our goal is to give our enchantments haste and hit with those. We don't need a big dinosaur to do it. The next one is Grumgully the Generous. This says whenever another non-human creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So it does make your elementals 1 bigger, but that doesn't really require a card. We don't really need it to be bigger. We just rather them have trample. 4 is plenty big.
Especially if you're playing that Hedron network, because you don't want to take out your own.
That's true. That's true. It is a Namba with Hedron network. That's why we're removing it.
Bye.
We planned that.
Yeah, we're very smart. Next up, we've got Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma, which is 3 and a green for a legendary bear. That's a 4/3. Creature spells you cast with power of 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. Whenever Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until the end of turn.
Goreclaw's great.
Yep.
It's so busted. This is a great card in a deck that's casting creature spells with power 4 or greater.
Right.
This deck, we're casting enchantments with mana value 4 or greater.
That enter the battlefield as creatures. But they aren't cast as them.
Yeah, we've just put in 2 better trample enablers. We don't need a card that doesn't do anything for us on the first half of it. Like, the only thing we care about with Goreclaw is the trample, so let's just put in a more synergistic piece in this spot instead. Up next is Spine of Ishsaw. It's a 7-mana artifact that destroys something. And that's too expensive. You don't want to spend 7 mana to remove a thing anymore, even on a 4/4 trample with or 4/4 indestructible with haste. We put in some more efficient ones, and we don't need this one.
And even if it leaves the, battlefield and goes back to its hand, goes back to your hand, I should say, it's still 7 to cast it again.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
That's almost 2 other enchantments that you could cast that come down as hasty, indestructible beat faces.
Spine is better if you're like welding it, if you're like cheating it into play and sacrificing it and putting it into play, but that's not what we're doing. We're just hard casting this.
Yeah, exactly.
So it feels just a hair too expensive. Speaking of too expensive, this next one is Bootlegger's Stash.
Ah, yes. Bootlegger's Stash.
It's the 6 mana one that makes your lands tap to add treasures.
Right.
We don't care about treasures.
Not where we're going.
I don't.
No.
It's funny to throw the stash at somebody, but like it's just, even here, I don't think it's a playable card. I don't want to start ramping with a 6 mana permanent.
And it's part of why, like we had mentioned earlier, there are some other treasure, enablers in here that can give you that. What this feels like, Bootlegger Stash and the 2 treasure pieces actually almost feel like they're a more cohesive thing for Wildseer than they are for Bellow.
Yeah,
because having Reign of Riches, having Alchemist Talent, which are the 2 other cards we are going to bring out that we're about to mention, having those with the treasure generator gives it some reason to be there. Then all of those 3 as a package actually makes some sense. You get more Cascade, you get more options with the treasures, great. But as it stands, it by itself, especially with Bellow at the helm, is like, okay, I'm paying 6 to maybe tap my lands for an artifact that I'd have to tap and why not just use the lands, get the enchantment, and be done with it?
Yeah, unless you have a very strong artifact or treasure synergy in the deck, I don't think it's worth the mana.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's why we're pulling out both Reign of Riches and Alchemist Talent, which are both cards that like care about when you crack treasures. Yes. They give you a little bit of treasure, but in the meantime, like Reign of Riches comes in, gives you 2 treasures, and then when the first spell you cast with a treasure this turn has Cascade. So you can cast 2 spells and they'll have Cascade, but after that, you don't have a lot of cards that make treasures, and now you just have this 5 mana enchantment that's not doing anything.
Exactly.
And what I say is make that enchantment work for you.
Yeah.
Folks.
Do that. The other one, Alchemist Talent, is a new card for Bloomburrow. It's 3 in a red for an enchantment class. It has, when Alchemist Talent enters, create 2 tap treasure tokens. You can pay 1 in a red for level 2, which is treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one color.
Sweet.
Love that. You can pay 4 in a red to bring it to level 3. Whenever you cast a spell, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it, this class deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to each opponent. These cards are cool, and they have a place, but I don't think it's with Bellow at the helm.
No. Bellow doesn't care about money.
No.
He cares about enchantments.
And beating people.
And beating face with elementals.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. It's like Bellow feels very Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Where it's like bringing the wardrobe and the table and the family car to fight you. That's what it feels like.
Very much so. Finally, on our cards to cut, Domri, Anarch of Bolas. 1 in Gruul for Domri as a porcupine. Comes in with 3 loyalty counters. Creatures you control get +1/+0. You can add a loyalty to add green or red. Creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. You can -2 for target creature you control fights target creature you don't control.
Yeah, a little ramp, a little interaction. Those are both very good things. I think this Planeswalker is generally underrated, but we have already talked about how this deck is weak defensively.
Yes.
And Planeswalkers require you to play defensively. So you're just not going to be able to protect this. You'll spend 3 mana, you'll get a fight spell out of it. You hope that works, and you probably won't untap with your Planeswalker.
Right. Unless you want to just use them as bait. Nicol Bolas did. So
there you go. It's life gain.
Yeah, look at this scary Planeswalker. You should attack that before I get my enchantments out. So Domri's good bait, but otherwise, you could probably find something better for it.
Not a ton of synergy with the deck for sure. So that's the upgrade. We've given you 10 cards to add, 10 cards to take out, even a bonus Roaming Throne for your trouble.
Whoa.
When in doubt, you could probably add Roaming Throne. You're right. Thrown them out.
Oh no, I said it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're
going to put the link to this upgrade on our ARCHIDEKT. So check the show notes if you want to see it all in one place. If you want to do some gold fishing, the playtester is great on ARCHIDEKT. Check the link in the show notes and go play this deck. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of, how does this deck play? Let's talk about it.
Well,
I did some gold fishing with the deck out of the box. It is
interesting.
Ravenous for mana.
It really is.
Yeah.
I have played it in a game that will soon be released, but it was contracted, so you know you'll see it soon.
You'll see it.
It definitely. I was very fortunate in that the other decks started doing the fight amongst themselves, and I was able to stay quiet because I did not get a lot of ramp out.
Right.
It really, really wants it. Once you start going, you can go, but. Yeah. You need to be very, very careful. Make sure that you're keeping a good 7. Don't get greedy. This is a very punishing deck if you cannot get stuff out on the curve. You really definitely want to have those 4 drops on turn 3 like you have here. You really want that turn 2 ramp. You really want to start building the board up with enchantments before you cast your commander so you can come out of the gate swinging the second you do.
Yeah, it's you have to remember that your deck is full of do-nothing enchantments. And if you don't have your commander on the board, they don't do much. Yeah. So you have to protect Bellow. You have to remember that your deck is a little bit of a freight train. It's going to get moving really fast, but it's going to take a second to get there. So take that time to set up. Don't cast Bellow until you're ready to use him. Yep. He's 3 mana, which is great. That means you can recast him if he gets destroyed in the late game. But if you don't have any artifacts or enchantments, or you don't have a window to attack with,
he's a sitting duck.
Just keep him safe.
Yeah.
Leave him in his little raccoon hole.
Yeah.
So you've got some time to get your commander out, which is nice. It's fun having your commander be a payoff and have the deck be about the setup.
For sure.
We've mentioned it a lot, but trample is essential. Your stuff are their 4/4s, which is big and is inconvenient to block, especially because they're indestructible.
Yes.
But if you're playing against a token deck or if you're playing against a deck that just makes big things, they're not going to get through. Yep. So having some natural evasion in the deck is going to be really important, whether you want to do trample or menace or, pick your flavor.
And again,
damage doublers. Oof.
Yeah. And again, it's really, really important here that you do have a defensive strategy and start playing defensively before Bellow gets out, because once your turn is over, those enchantments will go back to being plain old enchantments, and they're not
just a
4/4 elementals anymore. Right. You're just going to have a chest of drawers and a lot of pain coming your way. So be very, very cognizant that you're going to maybe not attack with things that are not turning back into nothing at the end of your turn. Keep those creatures back, keep them untapped so you have blockers for later. Use your enchantments to do the big work.
Definitely. I love that. Is like having a bunch of saprolings and having the monsters sneak out in between them.
Right, exactly. That's
and
what
then
you're going for
go back to being a coffee table or whatever at the end of your turn.
What do you mean? I'm not threatening. There's just some plants out front and some lovely furniture in my home.
Think you hit me with a coat rack.
Exactly. Yeah.
This deck is sweet. It's got a lot of cool tech. It lets you open up some cards that are feel a little expensive, like Primeval Bounties in this deck, which I haven't seen in a modern commander deck in ages, and is very exciting because it's a creature and it accrues value as you go. It means you get to play some of those big spells like Sunbird's Invocation, and
Sunbird's Invocation is so sweet in this deck.
It's
so sweet in this deck.
And it feels so much better when you get additional value out of it right away. The haste is enormous.
It's huge.
So I think it's going to be really fun. I think it could stand to be sped up a little bit and have a little bit of a tighter synergy. Hopefully we did that with this upgrade. To the listeners, what do you guys think of this Precon? Are you as high on it as we are? That value is great. Any cards we missed? Any cards we suggested to add or take out that you agree with? Anything that you're like, you didn't think of this vehicle?
I mean, there's only been 16,000 cards that have been released so far this year, so it is a little hard to slog through. We absolutely welcome your knowledge and expertise and hyperfixation as much as ours. And we'd love to know what you found.
Send us your hot Bellow tech.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or if you're building wilds here, tell us how you're building that, because that is a busto wolf.
Yep.
If you want to pick up this Precon or any of the Bloomburrow Precons, any of the cards we talked about in this episode, you can do so while supporting the show by going to cardkingdom.com/command. That's just lets them know that you came from us. It's very helpful for us. It means that you get to get Magic cards and we get credit. And that's not like financial credit, just like credit for sending you there.
Hey.
Which is good. That means we're doing our job and we're like, our advertisers like us us more. It's helpful.
Please
plus,
help. Yeah.
Card Kingdom also has a huge selection of Magic cards, and they can send you a ton of them all in one packaged professionally all together, so you know that the cards that you ordered on the website are going to be the ones that arrive on your doorstep in the condition that you ordered them in. I'm picky about my Magic cards. I want exactly the one that I ordered in exactly the condition that I ordered it in because I want it all to match. So it's nice that I can trust a place to get those cards to me accurately and safely. Again, cardkingdom.com/command. And then go to ultrapro.com/command to get some sleeves to put those precious cards in. Get Bellow sleeved up. Get some Bellow sleeves or a Bellow playmat. Get one of the new Mana 8 sleeves, deck boxes, binders. The binders are my favorite because they're like clean white and they've got the big mana symbol on them, so you can get like a red binder, and then the inside's all red.
Whoa.
It's pretty cool. So if you have got like a ton of binders and you want to get yourself organized, you can pick up a Wooburg binders and you'll always know where your green cards are and your blue cards and all that. Again, go to ultrapro.com/command and you're helping out the show a whole lot.
Heck yeah.
All right. We're going to move to the end step, and we were usually talk about something outside the world of Magic, but let's just talk about what you're up to, where people can find you.
Sure.
Before we go.
Well, I will give you one end step. Something cool outside of the world of Magic, I just want to let everyone know, is actually outside. It's just the outside.
Go to the outside.
Go to it. Go. It's so
end
cool.
End step outside.
It's real neat, guys. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, you want to check out outside. Serge from Loading Ready Run, Nadine and I just had 10 days in Iceland where we hiked, what was it, like 85 miles, about 140 kilometers.
Some of the pictures that you posted, I was like, no.
Yeah.
No caves.
We hiked, well,
no
we
caves.
actually, we did a few caves.
No caves. Under the ground? Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of that.
Mm-mm. Ground above me?
We
Not
went
where it
into
goes.
a volcano.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Nope.
We rode scaffolding down.
No.
And could not have it
on
ever,
ropes someone else made.
Yeah, we could never have left if that had gone awry.
Oh,
so yeah, no, it was great. Anyway,
Nightmares.
Go outside. It's really neat out there. It's free. You can see cool stuff. You'll feel better.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough.
Looks like an amazing trip.
Pro tip. You can also not take your phone and just like exist. It's really cool. I just want to throw it out there. I'm just throwing it out there. Otherwise, if you don't want to find outside adventures, you can find me on Commander at Home on YouTube or Elder Dragon Hijinks on YouTube. The Command Zone and game nights keep having me show up on occasion as well. So you might find me here time to time. Also on the Commander Rules Committee and on Twitter and on Instagram at my last name. So there they are.
Every time I see your Twitter handle, it's Gobert-Hicks.
Every time.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep.
So it's fun. Back when I worked in, the political sphere, I was like, I should have my real name so I look legitimate.
Yep.
And it was like, now I doxed myself. Cool. So, yeah, you're not the first person to say it. Don't worry.
My Twitter handle used to be Rachel G Weeks, which is my middle name. It felt very, very professional. But yeah, I got called Rachel Gweeks once and was like, nope. Done with that.
Rachel Reeks it is.
Rachel Reeks it is. Very professional. Well done.
Nailed it.
Before we go, we're going to say thank you to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. Thank you to Damon Lenz, Eric Lem, Gaurav Galati, Jordan Pritch, and Jamie Block, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Sam Waldo, Evan Liberger, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, Josh Leakwai, Jimmy Wong, and, of course, to the amazing Olivia Gobert-Hicks,
Oh, thanks, friend.
who is here talking Raccoons with me today.
I do want to say that you did forget somebody.
Who did I forget?
Rachel Weeks.
Also me.
Our amazing host.
Also me. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.